Hi all, welcome to the QA Tech Talk. Today we are going to start a new tutorial in API testing using the Postman tool. Let's move into the agenda of our tutorial. We will start with the introduction to API testing. Then we will look into the overview of Postman. Then we will create our first API request in Postman tool. Then the handling of API responses. Then testing and validation comes to picture. Then we will learn how to handle test data in Postman tool. Then the test automation and report generation functionality in the Postman. And at the end of the tutorial, we will learn some advanced feature like automatic monitoring of API collection in Postman tool. So these are the various topics that we are going to cover under this particular tutorial. Now we can start with the introduction to API testing. So what is an API? API stands for Application Programming Interface. It enables the communication and data exchange between two separate software systems. So here you can see there is a web browser and there is a web server. Assuming I'm going to access the Amazon application from my browser, then an API will be, then there is a request will be sent to the Amazon server. Based on this request, we will get a response. So through this request and response, I'm able to perform various actions on my Amazon application. So here the API act as a connector between the browser and server. Now we can learn what is API testing. API testing is a process of validating the functionality, reliability, performance, and security of an API. API testing ensures that the API functions as expected, handle various scenarios correctly, and meet the requirement of application or system it built for. So here you can see the three-layer architecture of an application. So the first layer is the presentation layer, that is the user interface that we see while accessing an application. So GA testing works on this particular presentation layer. We have different tools like Selenium, Cypress, etc. in order to do GUI testing on the presentation layer. Then the business layer where the actual business logic is written, and the API testing is work on this particular business layer. Then we have a database layer where we are storing our data. There are different type of databases available like MySQL, MongoDB, etc. So the database testing will happen on this database layer. As a tester, we have to know the concept and the tools that we are using to perform various testing on these particular layers. So in this particular tutorial, we are going to learn API testing that is work on the business layer. So next one we will learn why API testing is important. So first one is functionality. API testing verify whether an API perform the intended functionality accurately and consistently. Then the integration. The API testing ensures that the integration between the system work correctly with the data being exchanged correctly and expected format. Then the performance factor. The API testing help to measure and optimize the API response time, throughput, and resource consumption to ensure that it handle the expected load and provide a satisfactory user experience. And at last, the security. API testing help to identify potential security vulnerability such as improper authentication, authorization flow, data exposure, allowing them to address the before development. So these are the main factors that make API testing is very important. Then then what to test in API testing? So before testing, we have to know what are the things we are going to test as part of our API testing. So first one is the status code. So every API return a status code along with its response. By analyzing the status code, we can predict the outcome of an API. For example, creating a resource should return 201 created status code, and unpermitted request should return a 403 forbidden status code. So by analyzing this particular status code, we were able to predict the outcome of an API. Then the verify response payload. So API should give a response in various format. So by checking valid JSON body, we have to check the correctness of fields, name, type, values, and we have to check the error responses, etc. So these are comes to picture under the response section. Then verify response header. So HTTP server header has implication on both security and performance. So we have to check the response header value based on our requirement. Verify basic performance sanity. If an operation was completed successfully, but it took some unreasonable amount of time, that test will fail. So through the API testing, we can check the response time of an API. If it takes a long response time above a predefined value, then we have to inform our developer to optimize this particular API. So these are the main things that we are going to test in as part of an API testing. But the scope will be changes based on your application complexity and application function, applications, business requirement, etc. So before starting the API testing, we have to learn a few concepts. The first one is endpoint. API have a specific URL connected as endpoint, which represent different resources functionality exposed by an API. So you can consider endpoint as an address to an API. So through this particular endpoint, you can access an API. Request method. API uses various request methods such as get, post, put, delete to perform different action on resources. Each method has a specific purpose, should be tested accordingly. So for example, the get method is used to retrieve data. Post is used for creating a new resource in the database. Put is used to update a record, and delete is used for deleting a record from our database. So every method have its own functionality. Response code. API return a response code to indicate the status of a request. Understanding this code help to access the outcome of an API request. The next one is the request parameter. API often accept the parameters in requests such as query parameter and path parameter to provide additional information or filter the result. So we can pass some extra data in the request using the query or path parameters. We will learn the query parameter and path parameter in detail in the coming sessions. Response data. API return response data in various formats, commonly JSON or XML. API testing involves verify the correctness of the response data, including its structure, content, and consistency. So these are the key concepts that we should learn before starting API testing. So now we can learn about the Postman tool. So Postman is actually an API testing tool that is available in the market. So main advantages of the Postman, like it is very easy to learn and use even for a non-technical user. So if a manual tester, he can simply learn and use the Postman tool for API testing. And it enables quick and efficient creation of API request. It provides a visual representation of the request and response data. So through this visual representation, we can analyze the response and request, and we can manually verify whether an API is working correctly or not using the Postman tool. And it support automation of API test and the integration with CI/CD pipeline. And it offer an excessive documentation and vibrant community for support. So if you face any issues, you can ask your question in the Postman community, and it's also provide a good documentation for your reference. So these are the main advantages of the Postman. So in the coming session, we will start using the Postman tool, and we will create our first API request in the Postman. So thank you.